What happened in my courtroom that Tuesday morning still gives me chills. An 84-year-old man walked in for what seemed like a simple trespassing case. But what I discovered about this frail veteran changed everything I thought I knew about sacrifice, memory, and the true meaning of honor. I'm Judge Frank Caprio, and in my 35 years on this bench, I've witnessed thousands of stories, but nothing prepared me for what Harold Hank Peterson was carrying in that beaten-up duffel bag. When he finally showed me the contents, I made a decision that broke every protocol I'd ever followed. The morning started like any other in Providence Municipal Court. October air carried the scent of fallen leaves through the windows, and my docket showed 23 cases scheduled. Harold Peterson was listed simply as trespassing, $150 fine, no prior record. Age 84, Vietnam veteran, represented by public defender. When Harold shuffled through those courtroom doors, something about him caught my attention immediately. Not his worn clothing or the obvious signs of someone living rough, it was his posture. Despite his frailty, despite the walker he gripped with arthritic hands, this man carried himself with unmistakable military bearing. Behind him, he dragged an enormous canvas duffel bag, olive green and faded, with U.S. Army stenciled in black letters that had nearly disappeared with age. The bag was so heavy he could barely manage it, stopping every few steps to catch his breath. Harold Peterson, the clerk announced, charged with criminal trespassing at Riverside Cemetery. Harold approached my bench slowly, his walker clicking against the wooden floor. When he looked up at me, his eyes held something I'd learned to recognize after 3 decades of judging human nature. This wasn't guilt or defiance. This was a man carrying an unbearable weight. "Mr. Peterson," I began, reviewing his file, "you're charged with trespassing at Riverside Cemetery after hours. The security guard found you there at 2 a.m. on October 15th. How do you plead?" Harold's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Guilty, Your Honor. I was there. Shouldn't have been." I set down my glasses, studying this elderly man more carefully. "Mr. Peterson, can you tell me what you were doing in the cemetery at 2 a.m.? Harold's grip tightened on his walker. His eyes darted to the heavy duffel bag beside him, then back to me. "Your Honor, it's complicated." "I have time, Mr. Peterson. Please, explain your circumstances." What Harold told me next stopped the entire courtroom cold. His voice grew stronger as he spoke, like he'd been waiting years to tell someone this story. "Your Honor, I've been homeless for 8 months. Lost my apartment when my disability checks got delayed in some computer glitch at the VA. Been living in my car when I can afford gas, sleeping in shelters when they have space." I leaned forward, my judicial instincts telling me there was much more to this story. "And the cemetery, Mr. Peterson?" Harold's weathered hands began trembling. "I go there every month, Your Honor. Same day, same time. Been doing it for 47 years. Never missed a month, not once, not through 2 heart attacks, not through my wife's funeral, not through losing my home." The courtroom had gone completely silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, waiting for Harold to continue. "See, Your Honor, there's something in this bag that needs to be there. Something that can't wait for visiting hours or proper schedules. Some promises don't follow cemetery rules." I could feel the emotional weight building in the room. This wasn't just about trespassing. This was about something much deeper, much more profound. "Mr. Peterson, would you be willing to share with the court what's in that bag?" Harold looked around the packed courtroom. His eyes lingered on several other veterans in the gallery, their service caps marking them as brothers in arms from different wars. When he spoke again, his voice carried 50 years of pain and purpose. "Your Honor, what I'm about to show you, most people would think I've lost my mind. They'd say an old soldier should let the past stay buried. But I made promises to dying men, and I've never broken a promise to a fellow soldier." Harold's public defender stood up. "Your Honor, perhaps we could discuss this matter privately." I held up my hand. Something told me this conversation needed to happen in open court, witnessed by the community that had clearly failed to understand what this man had been carrying alone for nearly half a century. "Mr. Peterson has the right to tell his story publicly if he chooses. Please continue, sir." Harold nodded gratefully and began the slow process of opening that massive duffel bag. The zipper was old and stubborn, but as it finally gave way, the contents spilled out in a cascade that made everyone in the courtroom gasp. Dozens upon dozens of small wooden crosses, each one hand-carved and painted white, each one bearing a name, rank, and dates of service meticulously burned into the wood, each one worn smooth from years of handling and weather. "Your Honor," Harold said, his voice now strong and proud, "these are the boys who didn't come home from Vietnam, 43 soldiers from my company who died in the jungles of Southeast Asia between 1969 and 1971. But that wasn't all. As Harold continued unpacking, more items emerged. Small American flags, sealed plastic bags containing what looked like letters, military medals still in their presentation cases, and photographs wrapped in protective plastic. "I carved every cross myself," Harold continued. "Learned woodworking in the VA hospital while I was recovering from my wounds. Took me 3 years to finish all 43. Each one represents a boy who was somebody's son, somebody's hope for the future." I found myself stepping down from my bench, drawn by the incredible display of craftsmanship and devotion spread across my courtroom floor. Each cross was a work of art, carved with the kind of precision that comes from obsessive care and infinite patience. "Mr. Peterson, these are beautiful, but I still don't understand the cemetery connection." Harold picked up one of the crosses, holding it like it contained someone's soul. "Your Honor, most of these boys never made it home for proper burial. Some were listed as MIA, others were buried in military cemeteries where their families couldn't visit. I started placing these crosses in local cemeteries, creating memorial sites where people could honor them." The enormity of what Harold had been doing slowly began to dawn on me. This wasn't just grief or survivor's guilt. This was a one-man mission to ensure fallen soldiers weren't forgotten by the communities they died protecting. "How many cemeteries, Mr. Peterson?" 17, Your Honor, across 3 states. I place the crosses on the anniversary of each soldier's death, say a prayer, read a letter from home if I have one, and make sure the memorial stays maintained. I picked up one of the photographs, and what I saw there broke something inside me. A young soldier, barely old enough to shave, grinning at the camera with that mixture of bravery and terror that marked every combat veteran's early photos. "This is Private Danny Morrison from Ohio," Harold said, noticing which photo I held. 19 years old when he stepped on a landmine outside Da Nang. His last words were, "Tell my mom I kept my promise to come home for Christmas." He died December 23, 1970. Harold reached into the bag and pulled out a sealed envelope. "This is the last letter Danny wrote home. Never got mailed because he died 2 hours after writing it. I've been carrying it for 47 years, reading it at his memorial every December 23rd. The courtroom was completely silent except for the sound of several people crying. I could feel my own composure beginning to crack as the full scope of Harold's dedication became clear. "Your Honor," Harold continued, "I know I broke the law being in that cemetery after hours, but Danny's memorial got vandalized last month. Some kids knocked over his cross, scattered the flowers I'd placed. I couldn't sleep knowing it was still damaged. I went to fix it, and time just got away from me." I looked around my courtroom at the faces of the people watching this exchange. Veterans nodding with understanding, families touched by the depth of Harold's loyalty, court staff wiping away tears. "Mr. Peterson, how long have you been maintaining these memorials?" "Since 1973, Your Honor. Started with just Danny's memorial in a little cemetery outside Providence. Then I learned about Tommy Martinez from Texas, whose family never knew where he was buried. Added him next. Then Kevin O'Sullivan from Boston. Word started spreading among other veterans, and they'd contact me about soldiers they'd served with." Harold pulled out a thick notebook, its pages yellowed and filled with careful handwriting. "Every name, every story, every family I've contacted. I've reunited medals with families, delivered final letters, made sure mothers got to say goodbye to sons they thought were lost forever." I took the notebook from Harold's shaking hands and began reading, page after page of meticulous records, dates, locations, family contacts, memorial maintenance schedules. This wasn't the random obsession of a traumatized veteran. This was a systematic, decades-long mission of remembrance carried out with military precision. Mr. Peterson, you've been doing this alone for 47 years? Harold nodded. My wife helped when she was alive. She'd drive me to the distant cemeteries, help me maintain the memorials. After she passed, it got harder, but I couldn't stop. These boys are counting on me. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. Standing in my courtroom, surrounded by the evidence of one man's extraordinary dedication to honoring the forgotten dead, I realized that justice sometimes requires stepping beyond the boundaries of law into the realm of human decency. Mr. Peterson, not only am I dismissing all charges against you, but I'm issuing a formal court order declaring you the official memorial guardian for all veteran remembrance sites in Rhode Island. The courtroom erupted, but I wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm directing the Providence Parks Department to provide you with after-hours access to all city cemeteries so you can continue your sacred work without fear of trespassing charges. Harold's legs gave out. He sank into his wheelchair, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from criminal defendant to officially recognized guardian of memory. But I still wasn't finished. Mr. Peterson, no veteran should be homeless, especially one who has served his fallen brothers with such dedication. I'm personally contacting the VA to resolve your housing situation immediately. 3 days later, Harold had a permanent apartment in a veterans housing complex. Within a week, volunteers from across Rhode Island were helping him maintain memorial sites. Within a month, his story had spread nationwide, inspiring similar memorial programs in dozens of states. The last time I saw Harold, he was leading a group of school children through Riverside Cemetery, teaching them about the young soldiers whose names were carved on his wooden crosses. His duffel bag had been replaced with a proper memorial cart, decorated with flowers and flags donated by grateful families. Harold Peterson taught me that sometimes the law must serve something higher than itself. Sometimes justice means recognizing that a man's devotion to honoring the dead transcends any municipal ordinance about cemetery hours. In my 35 years as a judge, I've learned that the most important cases aren't always the ones that make headlines. Sometimes they're about an 84-year-old veteran who spent 5 decades ensuring that America's forgotten heroes were never truly forgotten. That's what real justice looks like. That's what honor means. And that's why Harold Peterson's crime became one of the most beautiful acts of service I've ever witnessed in my courtroom.